his thoughts on different fan bases from around the four major sports. He's got a comprehensive rankings system, and I'll let you find out where the Mavs fans rank in his mind. 877-881-1053. You got to call, though, to find out. Ask for Justin, and you can get some really valuable insight before you share some of your own insight talking about the Rangers. Well, another night in which the Rangers bats do not produce runs in a way that makes you feel good about things. I almost feel like, is this crazy? I almost feel like people would feel better losing this game 8-7, in which the bullpen, suffered the loss, but the Rangers were scoring runs, right? It just, they're having a tough time. Now, the positive is that, yes, Corey Seager had a couple of hits. That's nice to see. And we know that this lineup desperately needs Corey to get going. Well, he had a couple of hits. Did he absolutely scorch the ball? No, he did not. So, I think we're still waiting to see the Corey Seager slug come back into effect. But here's the thing. I don't know if you heard the network post game, but I'm going to, if I may, disagree with something that Eric and Matt said. They both, when I asked them about the offensive production, focused on the positives, which totally cool. Listen, there are nights when, you lose 7-1 and, hey, it's one of those nights, and here are a couple positives, and let's talk about it. Well, one of the things that was said was, well, hey, this team, had 7 hits, and they competed against Brady Singer. Brady Singer is really good. He's been really good all year, and he was really good tonight. That's all true. I'm not denying that. But this is a lineup that last year faced really good pitching and didn't kick butt every night, right? There were times, good, medium, bad pitching beat them on given nights. But this was a lineup that when you showed up to the park, you knew that didn't matter who was on the mound for the other team. They had a chance to do damage, right? Whereas there are a lot of lineups out there where, yes, they're going to have, a game where they face an elite pitcher and they have his number, right? The worst team in the league, whether you want to call it the Rockies or the White Sox, they are going to beat up on a really, really good pitcher at some point this year. It's going to happen multiple times. But my point is, most nights when the White Sox are facing one of the game's best pitchers, probably not going to do a whole lot. And you show up to the park expecting that. Well, with the Rangers, it's the other end of the spectrum, at least last year's Rangers. And I think the frustrating thing is that there's not that feeling right now, right? There's not that feeling that, hey, Brady Singer's on the mound for the Royals. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to watch the Rangers bats compete against Brady Singer. And good luck to Brady Singer, because these bats are hell on all pitching. Right now, the feeling is Brady Singer's been really good. Probably going to be tough sledding for the Rangers bats. Listen, a good lineup probably gives off that feeling. A good lineup probably gives off the feeling when you're facing one of the better pitchers going in the game. Well, probably going to be a tough night. It's going to be tough. But a really good lineup or a great lineup, you don't necessarily have that feeling. Yeah, you definitely know it's going to be more of a challenge, and you know that, hey, a great pitcher can shut down any lineup, but you have a higher level of confidence. And right now, it's just, I get it. If you hear, or if you heard Eric and Matt say, hey, well, Brady Singer is one of the best pitchers going in the game, and he was really good tonight, and that frustrates you, I understand it. They're not wrong. Eric and Matt are 100% right. And if you watch the game, right, you look at the box score, that tells one story. But if you watch the game, and you watch Brady Singer's pitches, they were nasty. His slider is nasty. Pitching Ninja, it's never great when Pitching Ninja's, featuring the team, the pitcher you're facing. Pitching Ninja featured Brady Singer early on, and Brady Singer's slider was front and center. But it just seemed like last year's Rangers lineup did a better job against really good pitching of cutting into whatever they were trying to do. And that's okay. It's not happening right now. And we're so early. I mean, we're 1 month down, 5 to go. You can look at it as I'm worried that this Rangers lineup just isn't going to figure it out, and this is who they are. That's not the stance I take, but I get that there are people out there who feel that way. You can look at it as the Rangers are squandering opportunities to stack wins while the pitching is strong because they're not scoring enough, and that's fair. Or you could look at it on a more positive side and say, oh, the Rangers are still a game over 500 despite the fact that their offense has been nowhere near as existent as you expect them to be. So, it's obviously early and it's tough to know what to or how to feel about this. I'll tell you, and I told Mike Bassick this the other day, I'm one road trip away, from really kind of starting to wonder what needs to change to try and get this thing going. It's not necessarily that, you're running out of time for this lineup to show that it can be a really good lineup because, I mean, heck, what if the flip switches in 2 weeks? First 6 weeks of the season be damned, they could be a really good lineup moving forward, and that's really all that matters. At that point, what does it matter what they did in April? The season numbers might reflect a little bit of a different story, but over time, because of how many games are left, they're gonna be fine. But if they come out of this road trip and you just don't feel like there's been any progress, you got to figure that something's got to change. I don't know what. Because I don't know who you'd start over who you'd sit, right? Like, I know at the beginning of the year, some people were thinking, well, no Leody Taveras. Instead, I want more Wyatt Langford. Well, they're both in the lineup, but it's not like Wyatt Langford has performed in a way where you're like, yep, he needs to be in there every night in place of someone else, right? So it just, I think right now, in an odd way, it's not apples to apples, but Bruce Bochy's kind of palms up to the sky about this lineup, similar to probably how he was palms up to the sky in regards to the bullpen last year. Now, I feel like there's going to be a different ending to the story for this lineup than the Rangers bullpen, but that's probably how he feels to some degree. All right, 877-881-1053. Listen, I'm not an idiot, all right? There are 3 TVs in the studio. 2 of them are on the Mavs game. 1's on the Stars. And that's the 2-1. That's just, I'm lazy. I mean, I don't know. It's not because I favor the Mavs over the Stars. I love my Suns equally. But I'm not an idiot, all right? If you want to talk Rangers tonight, we'll do it for the next 10 minutes. But we're all DFW sports fans here, so I get it. We're not going to go super long. I say that to say this. If you do want to talk, if you do have a thought, a question, now's the time to get it in. 877-881-1053. The Twitter numbers are down. Not a surprise. I'm sure the Twitch and the YouTube are down. I get it. That's great. How awesome is this? We got a team that just won the World Series. The Cowboys are what they are. But you got the Mavs and the Stars who are playing game 6s of their respective first-round series. I mean, I don't know. Let's take a step back here. Maybe let's reroute from talking about the Rangers lineup. The DFW Metroplex has 4 major sports teams. They've had 4 major sports teams since the Stars moved to town in the early 90s. Relative to other fan base or other other cities that have 4 major sports teams, it sucked to be a DFW sports fan. The Stars have won Stanley Cup. The Mavs have won NBA championship. The Cowboys haven't done anything in 30 years. So there are a lot of sports fans here in DFW who they don't know what it's like for the Cowboys to be any good. And then the Rangers have won 1 World Series. I mean, heck, I know that Los Angeles has a million teams, but let's forget the Clippers because all they've done is been paper tigers in the regular season. The Lakers have won a ton of titles. over the last, let's say, 30 years. In the post-Cowboys Super Bowl run era, the New York sports scene has been more robust. The LA sports scene, the Chicago sports scene. Right, I know the Bears have sucked, but the Cubs and White Sox each have a title. Oh, the Blackhawks have multiple. Being a Dallas sports fan, listen, we got it great that we got 4 teams, but they haven't been that good relative to some of these other big markets. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to have 2 teams in the playoffs. And not just 2 teams in the playoffs, like, hey, it's inevitable. I might think that the Mavs have no shot to win a second round, but that's just my personal opinion. But if you take that out of it, yeah, this Mavs team in a wide open Western Conference could absolutely make a run with the way that Kyrie and Luka have the potential to carry a team and with the way their defense has improved. The Stars are the best team in the Western Conference. They absolutely have the ability to make a run. That's pretty cool. And you got the Rangers, who they've gotten off to a slow start. They just won the World Series, and I think by all reasonable minds, that they've got a window right now where you expect them to be competitive for multiple years. It's a cool time to be a DFW sports fan. And then let's throw in the Cowboys, and you can have the most negative Nancy attitude about the Cowboys, but there are plenty of fan bases that would love to win, 12, 13, 14 games a year. All right, we've talked about this before. If your bar as a fan is championship or bust, that's your prerogative, but you're going to be miserable way more often than you're going to enjoy being a sports fan. If you want to put yourself through that, then that's not my place to tell you how to sports fan, but hopefully you can appreciate the ride, appreciate the journey. And right now, it's kind of cool to be a DFW sports fan. I don't know if it's cool to be a Justin Honore sports fan. He's a huge Lakers fan. But there's no one who's more of a critic of other fan bases than Justin Honore. I learned this tonight. While the Rangers were struggling to score runs, Justin and I had great conversations about fan bases. But I can't share that information on air. You're going to have to find out for yourself, either by calling or... Justin, you don't have any, when's your next on-air shift of any kind?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yep.
What time? What time?
I think 2:00.
He's on top of it. He knows exactly when he's going to be on air. You heard him speak with confidence there. Well, you never know. You're going to have to listen at 2:00 in perpetuity. He might share his thought. He might rank the fan bases. All right. Quick news here for the Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi placed on the injured list. The hope is that this is on the less severe end of the spectrum when it comes to groin injuries, in which case you'd expect or hope that perhaps he'll miss the 15 days required on the IL and maybe a few beyond that, but not anything significant. Either way, the Rangers made a roster move. Yerry Rodriguez called up, not to fill his spot in the rotation, but to provide an extra arm in the bullpen. Eventually, Jack Leiter will be called up. He's going to pitch in Oakland almost certainly. Nothing official, but it just, that would be the expectation. And then I think, the Rangers were going to have to make another move. And Jack Leiter, the reason why he's not the move is because they got the doubleheader. Is it going to be Owen White or is it going to be Jose Urena? And Jose Urena, if you don't necessarily need him in the days leading up, he could give you 3 to 4 innings and you can kind of piece together a bullpen game. And the cool thing about it is that on Thursday of next week, you've got an off day and that resets for everyone. You could also go with Owen White. You could kind of, figure out if it's a now or never. I don't want to say now or never, but let's see what we have in Owen White. 877-881-1053. So with Owen White, he's pitched a little bit better of late. He didn't have a great camp, but he's pitched a little bit better of late. Maybe something's clicked. Maybe it's clicked for Owen White. You give him a chance, go from there. So I think, Urena or White, those are the options for the game that Jack Leiter does not fill in which you need a starter. But Jack Leiter is gonna get caught up, and because of the Evaldi injury, you might see Jack Leiter for multiple starts, and that's going to be really exciting. All right, 877-881-1053. If you want to get in before the buzzer, love to have you. The Rangers and Royals play Game 2 of the 3-game series tomorrow. Prior to the game, Will Smith, Chris Stratton, and Cole Reagans were presented with their World Series rings. That was kind of neat. Good for those guys because they played roles in some degree. Chris Stratton helped fill a little bit of a need for a few weeks, and any help that the Rangers bullpen got around that time was huge. Will Smith, the Rangers don't make the playoffs without Will Smith. He really struggled down the stretch, but he was really good for 2.5 months. And then Cole Reagans, he helped bring Aroldis Chapman to town, and while Aroldis Chapman made you ride a roller coaster, look at the numbers. He was pretty good. All right, El Diablo, you're up first here, 877-881-1053.
Yes, I do not understand this. How come the Texas Rangers bats are softer than the Dallas Cowboys defensive line? I just do not understand it. They should be hitting that baseball. What is going on?
I appreciate it, El Diablo. That's a great character. I hope we can get El Diablo on every night, just with some sort of parody presentation of I don't want to say a fair take, but he's obviously the Rangers bats aren't getting the job done. That was good. I appreciate it. I wish I had an answer. I don't know that I have an answer as to why the Rangers bats are struggling without getting really into the nitty gritty, but they're just a lot of guys at the wrong time are scuffling. And the short of it is you need Corey Seager to get going, and you really need Wyatt Langford to get going, or Evan Carter, one of those two. And that's not necessarily a fair ask. These are guys of their first full major league seasons, but it would be really great to get one of those two guys going. Paul in Arlington, you're up next, 877-881-1053. This is Extra Innings brought to you by your friends at Uber Eats. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for taking the call. Hey, just briefly, I think you've skipped mentioning Boston as a town. They've had the most success in the last 25 years of any place, so the fans there are probably the most happy all around. But what I want to ask you about is I'm frustrated as why the Rangers are not stealing as much as other teams are, and they're getting killed with double plays. And if you're not scoring much, why not play the small ball and work on the steals when you got a chance? So I'll take your comments off the air. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, Boston, without question, that market has been the most successful. So it's a fair question, and I think whenever you're obviously struggling, that's, how can you change it up? So a few things. One, double plays. The Rangers are middle of the pack in terms of double plays. But who are you going to run with? You got to get on base. And then who are you going to run with? I think the Rangers' personality offensively under Bruce Bochy is that they're a little less aggressive on the bases. And that's, it obviously works when you're, mollywopping the ball all over the field like they did most of the year. But I think to Paul's point, yeah, one of the things, I think sometimes you think, oh, well, we got to change it up. We've got to move this guy, move that guy. Maybe it is being a little more aggressive on the bases. It's kind of a weird deal, though, because on one hand, if you're not loading up with base runners, you don't want to be cavalier with the base runners you have. But, yeah, maybe you do need to change it up and be more aggressive. But, you're not going to run with Corey Seager. And, Marcus Semien really doesn't run as much these days as he used to. And I think there's, usually you still have a lot of trust in Corey, and you don't want to put Marcus in a compromised situation there, with Corey in the box. You're obviously not going to run a lot with Nathaniel Lowe or Jonah Heim or Josh Young when he's in there. You got to pick your spots of the Doleys, right? I mean, big body, you don't want him to wear down. Year after year after year, there are a lot of guys who, they take their foot off the stolen base pedal as they get older. And so I think, again, with Adolis, you want to pick your spots. But a lot of these guys really aren't getting on base at a high rate either, right? So, it's tough. Paul, you're not wrong. I'm not saying that the Rangers should not be more aggressive on the bases and pick their spots, but it's very situational. And, I don't think you want to cost yourself a base runner in front of Seager or Adolis Garcia, right? As crazy as that sounds, because I know, the responsible, but they're not doing what you expect them to do, Seager specifically. I get that. You got to get on base to run. Hopefully, Leody Taveras, he's someone who absolutely could run more. Josh Smith isn't really much of a base stealer. He can a little bit, but that's not really his game. But yeah, you got to figure something out, right? There's no doubt about it. You got to figure something out, something to spark things, something to just get the Rangers going, and we'll see. Hopefully, they can get things going against Michael Wacha tomorrow. All right, last one, Kyle in Fort Worth. You're gonna close things out. Extra Innings brought to you by our friends at Uber Eats, bringing you home run deals all season long. Hey, Kyle.
Hi. Hello.
Kyle, you're up. What's going on, man?
I want to know if the Rangers is really, relying on Adolis Garcia that much, like, kryptonite. It's a bit of a kryptonite.
I guess I'm confused the question of the point, Kyle.
I'm on the air. Oh, God. Okay. Bye.
Huh. So it's tough to rely, I understand if strategically maybe a team relies on the 3-run home run too much or something. It's tough to rely on one player just because they bat once every 9 trips, every 9 batters. And it's not like it's basketball where you are feeding one player the ball every possession. I guess you could say the only critique I could think of that is anywhere remotely tied to that is, Jared, you've said that they need Corey Seager to get going, and once he does, things will fall into place. Is it bad that, based on your opinion, they're so reliant on Corey Seager? That's fair, but I think a part of it is you're relying on Corey Seager because other guys aren't doing their thing either, right? You absolutely you could get by and be a really good lineup with Corey Seager struggling if Evan Carter and Jonah Heim or Wyatt Langford, some combination of these guys were really rolling, but they're not. And so the person you turn to naturally is your best player, and that's Corey Seager. But I don't think that they're relying on Adolis Garcia. I think it's tough to rely on a hitter, in that way, strategically speaking. All right, that's going to do it. Oh, you know what? All right. Hey, we got one more, Justin. Let's take one more. I don't want to end on that last one. I'll stall while Justin screens the call. The Rangers fall 7-1. Michael Lorenzen did pitch well. We got to mention Michael Lorenzen. He pitched well. Colwyn did not. Colwyn was not going to be perfect all year. All right, so he didn't have a good outing. Now the key here is, how does he bounce back? Because that is a big key to any player in Major League Baseball, but specifically a reliever. All right, next time Colwyn takes the mound, how does he fare? Because that's going to dictate, what his staying power is as a reliever at this level. Can he have a short memory and bounce back? And, Eric mentioned he gave up some ground balls that got through, but at the end of the day, he looks at the box score. He's going to see 4 runs on 4 hits. How does he bounce back? But Michael Lorenzen pitched really well. Amy? Damien. We got Damien joining us. All right, Damien, you're going to wrap things up here on Extra Innings. What's up, my man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. So I was wondering, because a previous caller was asking about why not run more with the Rangers if they're not scoring a lot of runs and extra base hits. And you mentioned that Simeon and Adolis were getting older and you don't want to risk them running the bases. But do you think, in your opinion, that they should probably send some of the younger guys like Leody or Josh Smith or Evan Carter, those guys who get on base, do you think they should be running with them more and setting up more people in scoring position for the bigger bats?
Yeah, appreciate it. Damien, I don't know if you're running a marathon or what, but hope you can catch your breath, my guy. Listen, Evan Carter's getting on base barely 30% of the time. Leody Taveras is getting on base, unfortunately, this year, under 30% of the time. So when they're not on base often, it's tough. Leody's never really been a great base stealer, like relative to his speed. But yeah, the problem with Leody stealing is when Leody gets on base, he's getting on base in front of Simeon and Seager, and the last thing you want to do is, take him off the bases because he's not an elite base stealer in front of those guys. Josh Smith, maybe. Josh Smith runs all right, but Josh Smith isn't like a big-time base stealer. He had one steal last year, and he's never been a great base stealer. So, yeah, I mean, Evan Carter for sure. Evan Carter, absolutely. He's just not getting on a ton. Right? He's not getting on enough. And oddly, while he's not getting on a ton, he's slugging well. So, like tonight, like he's getting on, he's hitting a homer, he's doubling. Listen, Evan Carter's got now 23 hits. 12 of them have been extra base hits. So he's not on first with nobody in front of him a ton, but yeah, he's someone who absolutely could run more. And with Simeon and Garcia, I'm not saying they're not going to run, but you're typically once you get to around 30, and this is not across the board, but you typically start to see guys, really take their foot off the pedal when they are in a really good lineup. And this is a really good lineup that is underperforming. Maybe you're ready to turn the page and say, no, this is not a really good lineup. I'm not there yet. But take George Springer. George Springer used to run, and then he started to stop. And then, he got to Toronto. They had a different philosophy. Then in Houston, he picked it back up a bit. But, Mike Trout went from stealing 40 bags a year to, barely running. He had, a 49 stolen base season, a 33, and then, his last few years, yeah, he's not on the field a ton, but, trying to preserve his legs. So with Simeon and Garcia, you're just going to pick your spots more. It's not that you can't run. Pick your spots more. But definitely with Leody, it's tough in front of the big bats. Never been a great base stealer. Josh Smith, never been a great base stealer. Evan Carter, yes. Let's see him get on base more. All right, the Rangers fall 7-1. Let's hope that things turn tomorrow. 5:30 start to the pregame show. Michael Wacha on the mound against Dane Dunning for the Rangers. Eric Matt will be bringing you the coverage from Kansas City. I'll be here in the studio. Justin, starting at 2 o'clock, will be power ranking his fan bases on your home of the Rangers and your home of fan bases, 105.3 The Fan. All right, that's going to do it, though. Again, 7-1 the final. We're back tomorrow pregame at 5:30 right here on your home of the Rangers and fan bases in honor of Justin.
Join us for extra innings after every game on 105.3 The Fan. And give a shout out to Uber Eats for teaming up with us and delivering home run deals to you and your family all season long. Check out their all-star lineup of restaurants, the best selection you'll find on the Uber Eats app. You'll score a win every time you order when you take advantage of the many offers available from their partner restaurants. Download the Uber Eats app and make them a part of your game plan all season.
Quarterbacks is certainly, the work ethic's a must to be successful in this league. It's a very demanding position, and certainly Dak is, I think one of the hardest workers that's ever come through our building, and certainly why he's had the success that he's had. Trey exhibits similar type work ethics, and then obviously Trey's a really good athlete in terms of being able to move around, his athletic ability, and then, finally the most important thing is his arm. And he's got a very live arm, a very strong arm, and he continues to, improve, with his footwork and his accuracy, and which is what you expect from a young guy coming into the league. So, we're certainly very excited about him. And then, all Cooper Rush did for us when he got an opportunity to help us out when Dak got hurt a couple of years ago is go 5-1, which is, as we all know, is hard to do in this league. So, that's a very strong position for us right now as we head into next year in terms of what we feel about the the three quarterbacks that we have on this team.
I like all the things you're saying about Trey there, and I'm kind of curious because of the value of a 4th-round pick. Is there like a baseline that of production or contribution that you kind of need from Trey Lance to justify that 4th-round pick not having it this year?
Well, in a perfect world, that's the hard part about being a backup quarterback is, usually in order for a guy to get a chance to play, you have to have an injury. Cooper certainly took advantage of his opportunity when Dak got hurt. And so, no, I don't think you can necessarily say, hey, we needed this kind of productivity. We know we have him, and it certainly keeps us from having to, at this point, feeling a real need to draft a quarterback. And that's certainly why we gave up the pick. And it certainly makes us sleep better at night knowing that we have the depth at quarterback that we have. I mean, we all know these quarterbacks in our league get hurt. And when they do, you're certainly glad you got the quality that we have at the quarterback position.
Definitely understand the depth and quality at the quarterback position for 2024. None of those players are under contract after that, though. How does that play into your decision-making process?
No, I think that's why we're, what we'll be looking at as we move forward is, as I mentioned, certainly Dak's a priority in terms of his contract. And, certainly we'll be taking a look at Trey. And I know Trey will look at his situation as well in terms of what what his options are. And I'm sure a lot of that will depend on, how everything works out with Dak. And certainly Cooper's been a strong backup here for us. But, all those things will just have to play out.
The idea of trading down, trading up, moving around in the draft, I've always been kind of curious about this. When you're trying to trade down, what are you hoping to get the most in general, and then specifically with this 24 pick? If you were to trade out of it, what are you hoping to get out of it?
You just want more multiple players. You make a decision that I'd rather have, rather than have 2 players in the first 2 rounds, you get 3 players in the first 2 rounds. And, as we see the draft unfold, that'll be the decision that we'll have. And certainly the opportunity has to be there. Someone's got to want to come up to get something. And then we've got to make the decision with the players that are left on the board, or we want to get a couple of those players rather than use the pick right there and get 1 player.
Do you have to wait for that phone call then? Like if let's say there's 5 players still on your board that you really like, do you ever call teams below you, or are you like, that's not going to be a good look because they're going to know we want to trade out?
No, I think most of the time when you're going backwards, your phone's ringing. And, now if you want to go up, then you've got to make the initiation to want to make the move to go up and get the player you want to go get. But I would say most of the time, as you said, unless somebody's really wanting to come up, there's really, most of the time, there's not a lot of value there. I mean, there are a lot of discussions before the draft, that which teams are willing to move. And some teams are ahead of time looking for more picks. And sometimes, there are teams that saying, hey, if our guy's there and we think he might be there, would you be willing to come out of it? And, and of course, it's a lot of dialogue, but it's all the above at the end of the day. If you really love a player, we've gone up to get them. If you really like the depth of the draft and what you have on your board, then we've certainly moved down as well. So, it's just all in the preparation, getting your board right, and then you can make good decisions.
And so if we see one of those phone calls on the war room footage and y'all are high-fiving, the dialogue's gone well then, is what we're assuming, right?
Well, absolutely. And, obviously everybody has their own board. And that's why, after the draft, you see very few folks that, very few teams in this league that aren't pleased because, they've drafted according to their board and they feel good about their players. And, historically, we've been able to draft good players. I think we've, got a significant number of Pro Bowlers that have come by and through our draft. And, we feel good about the way we set up the draft, and I feel like we're going to have another good draft next Thursday, and Friday and Saturday.
I'm glad you said that about the board because, we have Broadus on the station. He talks about that a lot, about, window dressing your board and how it's going to look different from somebody else's. The whole world seems to have Caleb Williams as a generational type of quarterback. What do y'all have him kind of labeled as? Do y'all have him up there, or is there a different view on him from y'all's room?